Okay, so guys, if you don't have that note finished, that's fine. It's not going anywhere. You'll find it on Teams on OneNote. You can come ask me to put up later. But I do want to get started on this so we don't run out of time. So grab a computer, get signed into your paper, and we're going to talk about citations. But I'd like everyone to be following along while we do it. If hopefully you've started a paper and you have something you can meaningfully do here, but even if you have a blank page in front of you and you just get some practice with this, that's fine. Open up your paper in Word and let's get going. So keep in mind, when am I taking this? And when I say taking it, I really do mean taking it. I'm marking it on Friday, right? So unless you've made arrangements with me to some other extent, whatever it looks like on Friday, that's what it's getting graded at. So hopefully you'll be done it. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but in the meantime, I'm marking your paper on Friday. So have a paper done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bet. For sure. Or I'll just mark it and get back to you, and then you have it, and then we don't have to mess around. It's bad. It's really bad. I don't know why it's so bad. I know. And like it doesn't take as long for that to happen anywhere else. And I've had them come in and look at that thing a bunch of times. It's why like it's why even like because we're working on like online a lot today, like I'm sitting here plugged in like a Luddite, like a caveman. This is how cavemen taught, plugged into the internet. Oh. I know. It has gotten better, but it's okay. So let's take a look, and I'm going to go into bio, and we're going to go into this, and we're going to say view assignment. And obviously, you're all here. Oh, that's not this assignment at all. Formal lab report from Unit 1. And, oh, yeah. Okay, well, you're not here anymore, so perfect. So here we have a paper, and oh no, Orlando hasn't started his paper. What a bad student. Shame on him. He's really going to have to work hard. Now, you can work with references in the online version, and it does have some tools, but they're pretty primitive. And also, is this a good-looking space to write a paper in? I would maintain it is not. Listen, the web version of Word is fine, like Google Docs is fine, like all these things online are fine. They work, they do the job. But if you're doing serious word processing, if you're really trying to write something and do a good job with it, you need to use the desktop app. Does that make sense? On your home computer, the board has paid for all of you to have the desktop apps of all these things. And you can go to office.dspn.org and you can download them for free, which is nice of them. Isn't that nice of them? I think that's nice of them. No. I know it says that, but don't worry. You're not giving them any kinds of meaningful permission. You're just giving them permission to, but yeah, where it says install apps, you can install them right there, and you can put them on your computer. That's great because listen, I pay for a Microsoft 365 subscription, and the one I pay for costs me like $150 a year. Sucks. It's expensive. Don't like it. Disapprove. But I also like the board Google just announced that they no longer provide a terabyte of storage for students and staff on Google Drive. We're now down to 50 gigabytes. So like everyone who'd been using Google as their storage place is totally screwed. I'm on Microsoft, but like at some point they'll probably do the same. So I just pay for my own so that, if the time ever comes, I can just slide everything into my personal and be fine. But anyway, if you click these little dots here, there's an option to open it in Word. The desktop version of Word is a much better word processing app. It's much better than the online Word, and it's much better than Google Docs. I actually think Google Docs is better than Word Online, but the Word desktop app is substantially better than any of the above. So click that, and your file's going to load here. Sometimes you have to sign in. Sometimes you have to type your thing, whatever. Yeah.
You already started writing on through Microsoft Teams.
It's the same document.
Can you just?
Yep, it's the exact same file. So look here, like if I had gone instead to open the template copy here, do I have enough Word tabs open, do we think?
I don't think so.
Is that enough? Maybe I should open a few more. If instead I had gone to open the style guide.
You wonder why your computer is slow.
My computer's not slow. My computer's speedy. It's wonderful. as long as I turn off battery power saving mode, which I designed myself to like completely throttle it, it runs great. Actually, I'll even save time. Look here. This is me writing in Teams. And if I go in here and wait a second, it'll show up here as well. Sometimes it's a bit delayed, but
yeah. Wow.
Again, it normally, like if you're doing this at home, it won't be. School Wi-Fi, dreadfully slow. Oh, I deleted it by accident. But anyway, you can see they do update one another. Now, would I recommend like going back and forth and writing between the two? No, probably not, but they do update one another. This should auto-save, but certainly if you press the save button, it will update to Teams as well. Does that make sense? So it's the same document. So you guys are way ahead of me, but what font did we say we're using for this? Times New Roman. What font size? 12, okay. So we center it, and this is the title of my paper. Note that it's a sentence, starts with capital N's, and my name's Joseph Orlando, and my email address is joseph.orlando@dsbn.org, and today's date, and teacher, Mr. Orlando, class, SBI for you. I can't remember all the details we put in there, but I think those are the main things, yeah? Okay, so there we go. And then what's the section I'm writing here? Well, the first section I do is my abstract, right? And then this is my abstract. It's so good. Wow, look at me. Oh, and I, of course, am writing a formal paper. So would I write it's? No, I'd write it is, right? Because we don't use contractions in formal writing. Yep.
What about exclamation marks?
Where appropriate.
Is it appropriate to say an exclamation mark there?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Wow gets an exclamation mark. Also, if you want to make yourself look old, put 2 spaces after a period. I always do because that's how it was drilled into us like it was a religious responsibility to always put 2 spaces after punctuation. But I'm told that that is a sign that I'm old and that that's no longer. That goes back from the days of like typing on typewriters and stuff. So apparently now we don't do that, but I still always do.
You don't want the title bold. When do you think a lot do that?
Either or, I don't really care.
This is the first time I've heard people not doing that.
So it depends on what kind of teacher you had. If you had an old like me, they were like, you have to do that, it's important. And then if you had like a young hip teacher who had their finger on the pulse of youth culture, also like me, then they'd tell you that no, we don't do this anymore. That's uncultured. That makes you look unstylish. Anyway, what's the first section in our text proper? So introduction. Oh, the less common spelling with a 4. Okay. And of course, what should my spacing be for this whole thing? Double spaced. So I'd go here and I'd double space it. Okay. And now, now there we are. Oh, now I wish I hadn't put all these massive spaces there. By the way, if we go and check in Teams, you'll see that, yeah, my stuff is all there. So we're good. Okay. There's my introduction. And then we can get going. Left that, unbold it. Okay. Well, I'm going to write more formally than that. So for the introduction to my paper, which will almost certainly be the longest section, I need to lay out all of the relevant science that serves as an underpinning to my experiment. Yeah, so I'm going to get writing my introduction. And your introduction, you're going to try to introduce all of the key scientific topics. If you had done a lab, if you're writing a formal report on a lab where we had like grown a plant in nitrogen-rich soil and nitrogen-depleted soil to see what the effect was on the height of the plant, then your introduction would be all about plants, right? It's going to be about what plants are, how they grow. It's going to be primarily probably about the function of nitrogen in plants, right? What is nitrogen? Why is it important in plants? Oh, it's how every living thing makes proteins. So you can't make proteins without nitrogen. Why do plants need to make proteins? Well, because plant cells make proteins to serve as enzymes and all these things just like everything else. How do they get nitrogen? Well, they can't get it from the air, so they have to get it from the ground. How do they get in the ground? In the form of nitrates. How do the nitrates get into the ground? From fungi and bacteria that place it there, mostly by decomposing dead matter, but also by metabolizing some nitrogen out of the air as well. Do you see what I mean? You're going to walk through the science. It's not about your experiment. It's about the things a reasonable reader needs to know coming into your experiment. And at the high school and university level, usually that means kind of rehashing what you've learned in class about this topic and usually expanding on it a bit too. Does that make sense? Now, you have to cite your sources as you go. It is not acceptable to cite your notes or my notes or the lessons we learned in this class. You'll be astonished to hear that the international scientific community does not accept me as a major authority on anything. Right? I've never been a published author in science.
If we were to have a teacher that was, we would be able to cite them.
Oh, let me tell you, rule one. At some point in all of your courses in university, find an excuse to cite one of your prof's papers.
Oh, they'd be really happy, don't they?
Oh yeah, they love it. Yeah, you gotta find some excuse to like find a paper that your prof wrote and cite that thing and cite it like it's the holy grail. Like you just stumbled upon this thing like it was the single most important paper you ever read. Anyway, but your textbook is a very good source to cite. Basically, if we cover a topic in our lessons, it will also appear in the 4U Bio textbook. So it's very valuable. And of course, would I write its? No. Pish tosh. Okay. So now, let us say that I have just referred to an important topic in the textbook. Once I have finished the topic in its entirety, it is time to make our citation. And this is what's important. You don't need to cite every single sentence. Does that make sense? Don't cite every single sentence. Once you've finished the major section for which you're citing, you can put your citation. Your citation is a part. Give me just a second. I will answer your question, but I want to get through this thought. Your citation is a part of the sentence, which means it goes before the period at the end of the sentence. Does that make sense? And when you go to put a citation, you're going to go to where it says references, and one of the options is insert citation. A citation is in the text. It says, the section that just came before, this is where I got that information. And the good news is, you don't have to like put brackets around like what section it covers. A reasonable reader can figure that out. Does that make sense? So when you get to the end of an idea, and you may cite a few places, there are times when it might actually make more sense to not even put the citation at the end. Sometimes we'll even say, like, according to, you may mention the citation earlier on. You could say, like, according to, Bakersfield and Derrida 2023. Like sometimes it makes more sense to build the citation, build the names of the authors into your sentence, right? If you're talking about what they found and what they've seen. But regardless, the actual citation's always going to go right at the end. Even if you've mentioned the name and whatever before, that's fine, that's good. But the official citation goes here. In this course, we're going to use APA formatting. The nice thing is, if you go up here to references and you click under style, they should have APA here as an option. And I believe somebody was telling me yesterday that there is a 7th edition of APA available now, but we're still using the 6th edition. That's fine. We're going to click there. And if this is set to APA, then as we go, it will make sure everything we do is in APA. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Say you got it wrong. Say you do your whole paper and then you look and you're like, oh my God, we were supposed to be using Chicago, or we were supposed to be using Vancouver, or we were supposed to be using Harvard Angelia, or we were supposed to be using MLA, or whatever, or Turabian, whatever. The beautiful thing is if you change it here, it will change your whole paper for you. Boom, just like that. Very nice. I don't know. I've never used it. So now that we're ready to put our citation in, I would say insert citation and add a new source. If I had sources already, they'd appear here. But since I don't, I'm going to say insert citation and add a source. Does that make sense? So on your paper there in front of you, even if you don't actually have a spot now, let's just practice. You can always delete it later. That's fine. Yep.
It doesn't look the same here. They clicked reference.
Okay, click references.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, go in the desktop app.
I searched up word. Wait.
You don't search up Word.
That's okay. Once you're so listen, you want to open it in the desktop app. So if you're in a Word Online file, just in the search bar, just search for desktop app and you'll see it there and click open in the desktop app. You want to work in the desktop app. Online is fine, but it's not very robust. So I'm going to say insert a citation, add a new source, and then here we go. And depending on the type of material, you can click here. You can also just click show all the fields and then anything you could possibly want to say about it is there. But usually we don't do that because it's more information than we need. So for example, let's say I'm citing the textbook. Does somebody have the textbook here? Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to click book. And what is, this one's called Biology 12. And who's the author? Does it say?
Add new source or add new placeholder?
You want to add a new source. That's the publisher, but actually all the authors are on the side. If you pass it to me, I'll type them in. We might as well all put this one in now because I would be shocked if any one of you doesn't need the oh boy, okay, there's a lot of authors here. And here's the deal. If we were doing this, we should really put all of them in there. But
Wait, so if we use this,
but not the contributing authors. So yeah, we're going to put them all in. I will actually copy and paste the text of this into Teams for you. So if you don't want to type this along with me, you can now. But I will copy and paste it so you can actually just paste it in here. But we have Trent. Yeah.
So what happens if we use a site and not if we use a textbook and a site, but with APA, I don't know how to cite like the actual website itself.
We'll get there.
Because sometimes
We'll get there one thing at a time. Let's work on the thing we're doing now, and then we'll get to the others, okay? Because I can't multitask. Robert Noble, Jennifer Harrington, Clyde Ramlocken, and Sharon Ramlocken. All right. So like I said, I will copy and paste that. I'll copy and paste this into Teams for you. So if you want to just be able to copy and paste it, you can save yourself some times. You can save times. Times New Roman. There you go. Okay. What year was this published? This was published, and you got to look through and see. This was published in 2011. City, it was published in Toronto. Publisher, McGraw-Hill Ryerson. And you can see, for a textbook, that's all the information I need. Does that make sense? And now if I click OK, once I've got all that in there, it's going to make my citation. But here's the nice thing, too. I'll never have to punch this in again. I can cite this textbook 15 more times, but it's already in my list of sources now. So next time, it'll be easy to cite. Does that make sense? So I click OK, and there it is. Trent Carter Edwards, 2011. And I press period. I'm a little worried. Has it identified, was I supposed to put semicolons between those? Give me just a second. I don't think so. Oh yeah, sorry guys, semicolons between.
it says example. Example is
Oh, is it last? Oh, see, yeah, I should have paid more attention. It's last name, comma, first. Back to the drawing board. Yeah, really. Carter Edwards, comma, Trent. See, I'm out of practice. And then a semicolon. Don't worry again. I'll pop this into Gerards, comma, Suzanne, semicolon, Gibbons, comma, Keith, semicolon, McCallum, comma, Susan, semicolon, Noble, comma, Robert, semicolon, Harrington, comma, Jennifer, semicolon, Ramlocken, comma, Clyde, semicolon, and Ramlocken, comma, Sharon, no semicolon, because that's the end of our list.
Hey, would you like to send me an email with like the copy and paste version?
I just put on Teams. And I'm putting the proper one on Teams. Whoops. Didn't read the instructions. Try this one. There we go. And now, if we click OK, yes, that's better. And do you see what it said here? Do you see how it says et al? In APA 6, as a rule of thumb, it will only list up to, I believe, 6 authors in a single citation like this. And then usually it will then just replace all of the names after the first one with et al, which means and the others.
Wouldn't you feel relieved to write this entire textbook and then be and the others?
Perhaps I would. Well, and that's why normally if it's under 6, they will write them all the first time, and then only in subsequent ones does it say et al. But if it's a really long list like this, it'll jump right to et al. But all the names will still be in your final works cited list at the bottom, which we'll get to. Perhaps I would write another paragraph where I would need to cite the textbook again. In that case, when I finished that section of my writing, I would simply add another citation to the same source. Nicely, it is much easier once you've added it would I put you've? No, and in fact, I'd never say you anyway. If the word you or your is in your paper, you've done something horribly wrong.
Well, you also have a lot of I's, too.
I is okay. I and we has overwhelmingly become acceptable in science writing. It used to be kind of discouraged, and now it is de rigueur. It's pretty normal. It's quotidian. But the second person address, you, your, things like that, I'm doing this here because we're obviously just kind of blasting through this, but you would never put that in a proper paper. What's this? Who do you dislike? Whom? Whom do you dislike? Not who. Whom. Object, not subject of a sentence. Anyway, whom is the object of your scorn? I don't actually want to know, especially while I'm streaming. Is it me? Okay, good. We'll carry on then. So, so nicely, it's much easier once you've already added the source once. So look here at the end of this sentence, and again, where does the citation go? Inside the sentence, before the period, and I would just say references, insert citation, and I don't have to add a new source now. It's right here. Carter, Edwards, Trent, Gerards, Susan, Gibbons, Keith, et al. And I just click there, and then it adds them again, and I put the period. Maybe you used LibreTexts for a section. That is a pretty good online source. If so, we could cite it. So now I'm going to add this citation. So let's say that you looked up LibreTexts on enzyme activity.
That was our very left common spelling activity.
Yeah. So here we go. And this is probably going to be over our head for what we're doing here, but that's okay. So we let this thing load and, that's a pretty good summary actually. So here we go. So we've got enzymatic activity from LibreText. We're like, yeah, this is perfect. Often things like this will actually give you a citation right in there, which is nice. But that's okay. We don't need to worry about it. Here it is. And now if we want to cite it, This has been contributed anonymously, so that's interesting. We don't have an author, but well, by default, you don't want to be naming the website as an author. So if there is an author, that's better. It's also more reputable. But LibreText is a good source. It really is. It's a part of the University of California system. It's good. But so we don't have that. We do have a date. We have the web address. I'm going to copy the web address because we're going to need it. So now if I went in and I wanted to cite this source, we'd go here and we'd say insert citation. And what am I going to need to do? Add new source. And in this case, I'm going to pick website, right? So the author, in this case, since we don't have one, we can click corporate author, but make sure you click that, and we'll see if there's a more specific group, but it's the Department of Education Open Textbook Pilot Project, UC Office, Provo. I think LibreText is, in this case, actually the most appropriate choice. So we're going to name the corporate author LibreTexts. And then what's the name of the web page? The name of the web page is 18.7, enzyme activity. Does that make sense? The name of the website is LibreText, but the name of the web page is the title of this particular page, which in this case is that, right? Name of the website, LibreText. Year, again, when it was updated, August of 2022. Do we have the date? 16th. And the URL. If it's not something that's telling you when it was updated, it's probably not a good enough source to use. That's a good guideline right there. If something isn't telling you when it was written or giving you some kind of provenance, then you're not on something that's a serious enough source to use as a reference, and don't. There might be exceptions to that, but that's a pretty good guideline. We want to use serious sources. LibreText is a serious source. It's academic. It's published by the University of California, which is one of the great university systems in the world. It's reliable. Yeah.
There's a specific site.
Yeah, check with me later. So there we go. I can click that, and now you can see I've got that citation in there. We can keep going. On a paper at this level, you might not have all that many sources. It might only be 1 or 2 or 3. Some of you will probably have 11 because you're keeners and you want to show me that you're doing research and you've read far and wide, and that's great. I love that. Eventually, we would write our experimental. You almost certainly won't have any sources in your experimental. Why would you, right? Then you're going to write your results. You definitely won't have any sources in your results. Your discussion, on the other hand, I would expect that as you dig into your results, you'll need to cite another source. But here, I want to jump through that because the last thing is this. At the end, when you're done, you're going to have to put your last thing, which is your works cited page, right? Look here. Sorry, I know I'm leaving this to the end, but look how easy this is. It's amazing. Here it says bibliography. Click that. And we don't use the term bibliography. That's an English term. We usually use references or works cited. So we'll say works cited. And then here's the only thing. Delete their title. And then we, oh God. And then we care about formatting. So what do we want to do with the font? Just change it to Times. Change the size to 12. Change the spacing to double. But it has done all the hard work for you. Which you're welcome. Because, man, let me tell you, back in the old days, then there's a comma, then there's one space, then there's a period, then there's a comma, then there's one space, then there's a colon. And if you got one thing wrong, depending on the prof, some were lenient, and some, if there's one misplaced period, they'd be like, oh, that's 0 on your references. And if you haven't properly cited your page, that's 0 on your paper. They were so hardcore about references. Yeah, it was deadly. And again, not every prof, but some. So it is very nice that we live in a time that the work is done for you. But having said that, don't be lazy. If you give me a works cited page that looks like this, where you have a title up here, but then there's also this blue title here in default Calibri from Microsoft, am I going to be impressed?
Yes.
No. Take some time, format your stuff. Other good news. Say you go in and add a source at the last minute. Just come down here, hover over and see where it says update. It'll update it so it now matches your paper. It's very, very nice. So you can use different people use different things for citations, but I think Word's built-in citation manager is really good. I think it does a nice job, and it's what I would do. Again, when is this due? Friday. Have it done. All right, have it done. No